Good evening. Let's get right to it. It is October. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We are the Millionaire Ladies Mob. We are here to talk to you about breast cancer awareness and your finances. We are the Millionaire Ladies Mob, and we help eliminate debt, protect income, create generational wealth. You can't live, plan retirement, get you health insurance like on steroids, and much, 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 much more. And we're excited to be back together again tonight. We have the Queen Carmen. Give us a wave, Carmen. And we have the Queen Aaliyah. Give us a wave. And I'm your girl, Saran. And hey, beautiful queen, Facebook user, we can't see who you are because this is Facebook user. Hey. So we're excited to come together tonight to talk to you about the financial things that you can do to protect against breast cancer and the things that come along with it. There's a term that we use in our industry that is not often heard. It's called a financial death. And it's not like anything else. It's a little bit different than when we actually pass away, but a financial death or an economic death is something that is bigger. Hey, Paulette, that is bigger and more challenging because you're still here and now your finances are dead. But before we get to that, we want to first, give homage to all the breast cancer survivors out there. That's why we're wearing our pink today. Go ahead, ladies, show them your pink.
Hey Heather, here's my pink. Although Saran
And
said it
some
was
of the
red.
tatas, so we saving the tatas. No, I
You
know, ladies, you got
flashing.
your own. Ladies, you got your own. I got it. But let's save the tatas, most, so we gotta talk about the tatas. So, but we're gonna talk to you about some different facts and stuff like that tonight, and then we're gonna talk to you about some ways you can hedge your finances that maybe you haven't thought of. It's a prevention method. Just some of the information that's kind of out there that maybe we're not talking about because you can never talk about it too much. We really need to keep having these conversations. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the statistics and maybe chime in here with the statistics that you know of for cancer, breast cancer, especially in women of color, because we know a lot of our audience, there are women, melanated women and women of color, but we really wanted to bring to you some of the statistics because these things are important.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump in here a little bit to talk about that. Breast cancer is a very serious illness, but the thing about it, it is treatable. So, and we're gonna get into that a little bit later, but 1 in 8 women in the United States will develop cancer in her lifetime. Now, that's a staggering statistic. 1 in 8 women,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and in 2022, an estimated 287,500 new cases of invasive breast
Yeah.
cancer will be diagnosed by the time the end of 2022. And ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, breast cancer is not only a women's disease. An estimated 2,710 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer,
Talk that talk, girl. Talk that talk.
and 530 will die,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Information is for us to put to good use. Knowledge is powerful only when we put this information to good use. So we need to, this is a good time for us to kind of, lock in because we're so busy doing other things. This is not for on our, foremost, first and foremost on our thoughts
Right.
because unless it visits your home or visits your family. So it's really important that everyone kind of get it in um, the forefront, because we can do things about it. Listen to this. There are over 3.8 million breast cancer survivors in the United States. So
Mm.
that's awesome, right? Um, this year, 43,500 women will die from cancer. from breast cancer in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
but approximately 30% of all new cancer diagnosis in women will be breast cancer, right? So it's important that we pay attention.
I
Another
have a question. I
fact,
want to stop you. I want to go back to something that you just mentioned. I wanted to bring that back. You said how many women survived? What was the number? It was 300 something thousand or whatever it was.
3.8
Excuse
million
me, 3.8 million women will have gotten breast cancer and survived from breast cancer
survived it.
and survived breast cancer. And that's the point that we want to talk about because you can physically survive breast cancer, but can you financially
Nancy,
survive
talk
breast
that talk,
cancer?
girl.
And so that's why I wanted to bring that to the forefront. And I know Aaliyah, she is like a healthcare queen. She is all things healthcare in all 50 states and three and all the territories, right? She's been doing it 20 plus years. So talk to me about some of, if you can, what's like the gaps in the coverage, the health coverage, and how much are our women, our 3.8 million women, having to come out of their own pockets financially for some of these, for the breast cancer treatments that they need to save their lives so they can be in the 3.8 million survival rate, but that seems like a financial burden.
It's scary. I just, from personal experience and family members and friends of mine, close friends. So when we talk about health insurance, I always talk about. Most people say, "Oh, you know what? I just get me something that's really low cost." But you have to think deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
How much can you afford when you have a tragedy happen and you walk into that emergency room or you walk into that hospital and that doctor says, "I'm sorry, Miss So and so, you have breast cancer and here is our course of treatment." So your health insurance will kick in if you have it. Okay. Now there's really isn't a reason that people don't have health insurance today. Now sometimes it's unaffordable to some people, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're out there buying shoes and purses and hats and things like that, the number one thing that you should make sure you have is health insurance. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
just can't afford it, there's also Medicaid. But here's how it happens. You sit down. Now, after the mental shock, so we haven't even talked about the mental
Right.
shock.
We haven't even talked about the mental
We are
factors.
That's right. We are talking about the physical. So now you've got to go in the hospital, have the surgery that's going to cost you probably over $100,000,
Mm-hmm.
maybe more. I don't know, but depends on where you go. Now, I don't want to go just any doctor. I don't want to go just any hospital.
We want
I
the
might
creme de
want
la creme. I want the Cadillac. I want the Porsche, the Ferrari, the Bugatti. I want the stuff that they don't advertise.
That's right. And what if you say, you know what, I'm going to try the holistic route?
Mm,
You don't want the traditional medication and chemotherapy and things like that. The expense of that alone is not covered by insurance.
At
mm-hmm.
So
all.
I know people who have done the holistic route. It
Right,
worked, but it was so expensive.
right.
So there are so many things that you have to think about when you are healthy.
Right.
And one of them is what are the expenses that you're going to have if you get diagnosed with something critical like breast cancer. And men get it too. I forgot about that. Men get it too.
They get it by
You know?
smaller numbers, but they definitely do get it,
Yeah.
right? And so, as we are, having this conversation today, it's more of an awareness because, and you all understand this, us, because we talk about this stuff all the time, is getting cancer insurance, a separate policy, or getting a life insurance policy that has living benefits to protect, or or getting all the different types of protections are not omens or going to jinx you into getting anything, right?
Exactly.
You're not causing anything to happen magically by doing risk management strategies, right? And I think that's really, those old wives' tales that it don't exist. Let's use numbers. Statistically, if African American women, if 31% of African American women have a higher mortality rate than the rest of the women who get breast cancer. And you have breast cancer in your family and you do not have any type of coverage for yourself, you are taking a major risk. You might as well just walk out into the highway. Don't do that. That's not advice. That's not advice. But you just walking around, you might as well just walk around naked. You just walking around outside bucket naked for no reason. You might as well just show the tatas at this point because you have a high risk. You're not protecting yourself. You're not protecting your family. You're not protecting anybody. You're just out here wilding outside. But the thing is that you can protect yourself for pennies on the dollar. And we'll go into detail. The best thing for you to do really to get advice from one of us, because we are educating you today, is to go to millionaireladiesmob.com and book an appointment with one of us, because that's the best way you can get specific advice for you in your specific situation. Today, we are educators. We're educating you on these risks. Just want to make sure you have that disclaimer. This is education, not advice.
Yeah, I
So,
wanted to pop in and say just a little bit here about what Aaliyah talked about. And that is, we kind of talked about if you don't have insurance, right? But what I want to say is that many of you do have insurance. And you might think that you are covered because you do have insurance. Believe it or not, many of the people who go bankrupt do have insurance. However, is those out of pocket costs
mm,
that hits you that you are on that you cannot survive unless you have some plan in place. With cost of surgeries being $100,000, and if you have an 80/20 plan, which would be considered uh, one of the best, you still would now owe $20,000, in addition to the fact that you're not working because you're ill, and you're probably, if you're lucky enough, you probably only have 60% of your salary coming in. So imagine all of that. You're not able to cover your current bills, and now you have to come up with these medical expenses, and that's what puts a lot of people into bankruptcy. So
mm,
do not walk around thinking, I have insurance. Many people, especially people who do not get ill quick often, they don't really understand how that insurance plan works until they get there and they realize they have a $5,000 deductible and they have to pay that first before anything can be paid. And then even after that, there's co-insurance and there's things that they do not cover.
Right. One more thing. Let's say if we got sick and we needed someone to help us, like a family member, and they lived in New York and we're in California, that person has got to put their life on hold to come help you. They do it out of love. We do things out of love. But guess what? That's an expense that nobody thinks about. What about
Yeah.
traveling to the place to get your treatment and sitting there for several hours getting your treatment? You want support, you want comfort, you want somebody to be there with you while you're getting this life-saving treatment. What if it lasts a long time? What if it lasts a short time? What if there's so many things that I want people to think about this. It can be expensive with insurance, but it can be devastating without it. It can be expensive and devastating both ways. But
mm,
our job is to educate you that when you have a diagnosis, we haven't even talked, like it was said earlier, about the mental crisis that you're now going through. You
yeah.
can't function because you look at your babies and you think like, oh my God, I have babies, I have family, I have kids, I've got to go to school. Who's going to take them to school? Who's going to pick them up? Who's going to cook dinner? So
Mm-hmm.
just think about those things. And we have solutions prior to you getting the diagnosis. And
You know what?
even at a
It's
certain
scary.
age,
It's super scary to think about it,
it
right?
is.
Don't get it twisted. We understand, right? That it's super scary to think, what if this is true? What if, there is something? Then what? But the thing is that it's, and maybe it's just me, and maybe you tell me, maybe it's just me, but for me, whenever I see that there could be a potential thing that could happen to me, I'm like, how do I mitigate that? What are my buffers? How can I plan just in case? How can I make sure, something, doesn't do, different things? Case in point, a couple years ago, I found out that if when you're elderly, that if you have assets or income and you need Medicaid to pay for anything, that you have to spend down all your assets unless you have them in a trust. So I said, let me get a trust because I don't want to have to spend down my assets. And there's a look back period that's like depending on your state, it's like 5 or 7 years. I wanted to see. I don't know what's going to happen, in the future. But I'm like, if I can hedge my bets right now and take care of this, so this doesn't become an issue right now, then why wouldn't I do that, right? And that's one of those things. Case in point, they say that after a certain age, you should be getting a mammogram on a regular basis. How many people had these tatas checked this year? I
Hey,
did mine
listen,
earlier this year.
I tried to get my appointment for my mammogram last week, and it's on December 30th. Now you know what's going to happen. It's
It's
going to run into January, and now I have to pay my deductible.
don't miss it. Don't miss it. But going and getting those preventive tests just to take a look. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. Men don't typically get mammograms. We get it, but as a woman, it's probably the second worst thing I have to do. Next is go to the GYN. Story, right? But these are all things that we do preventative to make sure to help us with, you know, catching things early in the event that there may be something happening. And so the things are, and you talked about this, the treatments are expensive and they can be expensive. Even more expensive if you're a health nut like me, like, I don't want no drugs. Tell me how I can do this holistically. So I need money. I'm one of those people, so I need money, I'm
Right,
one of those
right,
people, the last, my first resort is not to take a pill. So
right.
the thing, that's one of the things that we really have to learn to take action. I'm sorry, Carmen, you want to say something?
But and many times, it's not only about you getting sick. Aaliyah mentioned if someone has to travel to come see you, but even if you're, husband and wife, or husband and husband, wife and wife, whatever, but a two couple thing, most of the times you end up losing both salaries because one person has to take off and their job might not pay them to be able to take care of you. So now it's not just your salary, but both people, and then children end up suffering. But here's the other thing, Saran, you mentioned preventative, go get your mammograms and things, but poverty and less
Ugh.
education and lack of health insurance are associated with lower breast cancer survival rates.
Oh,
And of course, that's going to be women of color more um, impacted by this. There's a saying that when white America sneezes, black America gets a cold. And that's true
Is it
because
the cold or is it the flu?
the flu, one of the cold, the fluvid, I don't know. But
Is
here,
the
here's the
flu and
thing,
pneumonia? I mean,
everything, 49% of uninsured women either delay or went without care due to cost,
oh,
well,
right?
and that goes back to the mammograms because those who are uninsured are less likely to get mammograms because they can be
Exactly.
costly. And so that's why it's important when organizations. I know here in Maryland we have a foundation that a good friend of mine leads in honor of her mom. It's the Edith P. Wright Foundation, Breast Cancer Foundation, where they honor breast cancer survivors. They do a mammo van and they take it to different areas and give out the free mammograms.
That's
So
super
that is
awesome and
so
good for
important.
us. Yeah, that's good and good for us to share because I'm sure that somebody that's right there in your state doesn't know that. And it might be happening right here in this state as well. And we don't know that. But so having this conversation, our audience could Google it and see if there's something, because you might be putting off care due to lack of insurance or due to not having the cost, or you may have insurance, but before you can even get care, you have to complete that deductible, which is almost like having no insurance because you don't have that. You can't do that, you know? And here's another statistic before we move on. 30% of uninsured women were up to date with breast cancer screening in 2018 compared to 64% of insured women.
And when we talk about that and we start talking about prevention, and you mentioned poverty being one of the factors that will force them not to be diagnosed sooner because they don't go to the doctor, they have medical insurance. The other thing that's tied to the poverty is one of the preventive methods for breast cancer, surprise, surprise, is eating healthy and exercising, is eating the right foods. And what happens in
Poor.
poverty
Mm-hmm.
and communities of poverty or families that have less finances, they they are less likely to have access to healthier foods because sometimes their neighborhoods are food deserts and they don't have the higher quality fruits and vegetables, the leafy greens, fresh garlic, ginger, the fresher meat. They're getting the things that aren't as good for you as other things. I was on our business TikTok, by the way, go to our business TikTok, Millionaire Ladies Mob. I was on our business TikTok earlier today looking at something, and this video popped up. Somebody making food, and it was like they put down some store bought garlic bread. It was like, oh, got this at the dollar store, like some dollar store bought garlic bread, and then some chicken nuggets, which we know is meat product, not meat, put them on top of the bread and started piling it up with cheese and sauce. It was like making chicken parmesan that way. And I was like, OMG, that is full of sodium saturation, sodium, and all kinds of bad stuff, like all mixed together. And this is dinner, right? And I was just thinking how, the choices we have in food when our money is not uh,
Right.
as substantial, they get to be very questionable. And then if we live in a neighborhood where the food choices aren't that great, then that makes it even, a double whammy. And then if we're trying to stay healthy, we're trying to prevent diabetes, high blood pressure, breast cancer, we're trying to prevent all these things. We don't even have access to the resources.
But you know
So
what? I saw a special, I think it was on Netflix or something. So this guy went back to Africa where the people were sold at the slave ships. But when they came over to the America, what they did is because they didn't have the prime foods, what we did is we made the foods out of the scraps that we got. So those traditions are continuing down to this day. I love chitlins, but is that healthy? I haven't had them in years, but pig feet, hog lump, things like that. Those things historically are not good for our bodies. And as you change, as we grow, and in our culture, we need to pick more healthy things, fruits, vegetables, and even growing our own vegetables and fruits. I would love to. I mean, I thought about it. I would love to have a garden and just pick my own tomatoes. Would that be healthy? There's pesticides, there's all kinds of stuff that go into our body that add to the stuff that makes us sick. So we have to change the trajectory of our families, of our environment, and of our children. And cancer, it's unbelievable. I can't talk. I mean, it affects me. I
And,
had
and let's say this, and let's not leave out the sugar addiction, right?
that
That we all have, because everything we have has sugar, some form of sugar, or some copy of
red
sugar,
and grape
right?
Kool-Aid.
So we have the sugar addiction, and I get it. And I saw somebody, and it's funny because I saw somebody post something about chitlins the other day, and I'm thinking, we're not too old for this now. We need to get educated, but I get it, and you're right. We make do with what we have because that's what is in our bloodline. We've learned to do that. And, eating the leafy greens. I'm sitting here, I have a picture on my other screen of like some broccoli and some cauliflower and some cabbage, and I'm thinking, I'd rather have some Chick-fil-A nuggets and
Oh,
Chick-fil-A sauce, right? But guess what? Chick-fil-A nuggets are fried in that fancy peanut oil, and then the Chick-fil-A sauce has some form of sugar in it, and that's how my body wants it. And until we are as clean as we can from some of uh, these things, because sugar is our number one drug. I don't care where we are in the world. Most of us, sugar is our number one drug. We could never have done any other drugs in our lives, or have any other vices, if you will. But I bet you sugar is on the list, because most
wow.
people have a diet that has more sugar in it than necessary. And all these things kind of feed into it, right? I just went off on a tangent about sugar, but we should know about that.
Yeah, no, but for real though. And then not to mention that it's good for experts on this to continue to educate us, because not we have to fight our own families sometimes when we try to eat better, because now it's, oh, you think you better than us. Oh, you don't think this and this is such and such is good for you, you know. And
Or it's like,
so
this is boring. And I was gonna read something when you were talking about the money. I was gonna share this with you. When you were talking about the money earlier, Aaliyah. The thing is that we always say we can't afford certain things. I hear people say, "Oh, I can't afford to buy a house. Oh, I can't afford to buy a car. I can't afford to go travel. I can't afford insurance. I can't afford to invest. I can't afford to figure out how to get into start a business. I can't afford to do all these things." And somebody posted this today. So walk with me. It's called The Cost of Getting Lit.
The cost of what?
Getting
getting
lit,
lit.
like
Oh, I
going out
saw
and
this.
having
Read
fun.
it.
That's
Yes.
that's what they call it, right? And so the post breaks it down. Says parking $20, depending on where you are. For the most part, parking ain't free. You're gonna pay $20. Getting into the club, $20, which is super cheap. So this is kind of a low budget. Drinks, club drinks, at least $150 if ain't nobody else buying, right? As a lady. And then if you buy some food, maybe 15, 20, $30 depending. Now this did not take into account inflation, because all these things probably cost more, right? I don't know when this is reposted from. So this particular total was like $205 for one night. And then
Wow.
they go on to multiply and say, if you do this every weekend, every Friday and Saturday for a year, you will have spent $21,320 for the year on just getting lit, or just going out and having fun. If you go out every weekend on a Friday and a Saturday. And this is a low budget, and I got it on my phone. This is a low budget because at the end of the day, things cost a little bit more. So let's just, if we add 10% on for inflation, now we're at like $23,000. So what is it that you say you cannot afford again?
Right.
Because I think, and I'm not the fun police at all. But what I'm saying is, if you cut out half and go out every other weekend, or only go out one day on the weekend, what would your financial life look like? What would you be able to do in your life while creating a more intentional way to spend your money? Just my little high horse.
Wow.
That money, and if you take that money and compound it over the next 5 to 7 years, you could be a millionaire. If you put it in the right place, in the right vehicles that are going to compound for you. We can talk about that all day. But I just thought that was a funny little tidbit for us to kind of really talk
Yeah,
about.
I saw that, and I definitely agree with you.
That's interesting. Just to get lit. How much? 200,000?
It was twenty-one thousand
Oh,
three
21.
hundred $20.
But that's per year.
That's per year. If you were to calculate how much money you're doing it, but most of us get, and this goes back to our conversation we had maybe a week or two ago, the emotion of money and how not to become a slave to it, but we're also become a slave to entertaining ourselves, or releasing ourselves from the mundane, or releasing ourselves from our hard life of working one or two jobs or whatever it is that we're doing, and we just have this mentality that we've earned the right to spend the money to do it that way. And I'm not saying you do or you don't. What I am saying is you've earned the right to spend your money the way you want to, but you also have the right to spend it more intentionally instead of passively spending it on things that you may not really want to spend that much money on. I know if I were shown that number and I was actually going out and getting lit every weekend, that I would be thinking, what could I be doing with $22,000, and how can I entertain myself for cheap, for maybe $21,000 a year, right? Can I carpool? Can I not have $150 worth of drinks? What can I do? Can I pregame outside? Whatever it is, to make sure that I'm not spending that kind of money, not being a cheapskate, but being more frugal about your money.
Right.
So,
Wow.
well, that was, so that really, our conversation tonight is really important. And I got some other little things that we can go over. But what else do you ladies want to go ahead and say? Let's talk about it.
One thing I wanted to say, and I don't know if I finished about the cost of a critical illness or something like that.
Yes.
When you get a certain age, it's too late to mitigate that with insurance or
Mm-hmm.
whatever product that you want to buy. So in California, because I have a lot of elderly clients, and so they ask me about things that can help them. California's a state that you can't get certain policies over a certain age.
Mm.
And so you got to think about a lot of things when you have cancer, even just regular cancer. Like I had a colonoscopy and I had polyps, so that's preventive. I got to get them taken out. Breast cancer. I read an article. There was a young lady who she was too young, the doctor said, but she knew her body. And if you know your body and you feel something is wrong, don't be afraid to speak up. That's one thing we have to do is we have to take charge of our
Advocate.
own bodies because these doctors will tell you anything. You know, they care, but it's like next, who's next? And when COVID hit, the reduction of the doctors and the nurses and the people, the staff and all that, people weren't getting their preventive, people weren't going to the hospital for illnesses and just people, I just can't even think about it.
It's funny because I heard on the radio today they were talking about how so many people haven't even been to the dentist since COVID. And I'm thinking, I didn't miss no dental appointments the whole time. I was still in there every 6 months for my cleaning. But people are missing these medical appointments. And so it's important to get back in a routine of going to get these things taken care of.
Mhm.
Wow.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I was scared of going to the dentist
Me too.
during COVID, and the only reason that I went to the dentist was because I contracted COVID. So after my thing went away, I figured I had some immunity and I can go do some stuff. So I decided to go to the dentist. And I actually told the dentist that I'm only here because I've recovered from COVID and I'm full of what's this? Antibodies.
Antibodies.
I'm full of antibodies. So I'm here. He was like, I don't blame you. I went to the eye doctor. I went to the dentist. I was trying to find doctors that I need to go to while I had these antibodies in me.
Oh, listen, I didn't miss nothing. Nothing.
Wow.
So I think the other thing too is, as we progress, to really start thinking about some of the other things you can do for prevention, right? So I got a list here of other things that we should be watching out for as women, that could potentially be cancer causing or breast cancer causing. And here's what we have. Um, the and these are items that are marketed to us beautiful women of color. Skin lighteners, hair
Mm.
relaxer, and I never thought about hair relaxers, but
We just heard about the hair relax.
I started getting relaxers maybe 10, 12 years ago, but hair relaxers. And then, so if you stop getting hair relaxers, and then you go get a Brazilian blowout treatment. The Brazilian blowout treatment also has a high risk.
What's a Brazilian? What is that?
It's different than a relaxer, but it still
Okay.
uses chemicals to straighten
Okay.
your hair. Acrylic nails. How many of you have acrylic nails?
Not me.
What?
Well,
I've used it.
I don't know, and
I
I don't use. I don't do acrylic, but I will get like gel. But I think that is a
Right, and I was gonna ask
It's like
though.
gel.
Yeah,
that is a thing with
I've done
acrylic.
gel and something else. So, but are they just the same? And it's just, how do we know?
And that's something to look into, right? Because I don't normally get my nails done, but if I do, I'll get gel. But I'll get gel on my toes, so maybe I just go back to regular polish for my toes. But
Mm.
there's some other specific chemicals to think about too. Benzyne, coal tar, coumarin, DMDM hydration, formaldehyde. Did you know that a lot of the cleaning products you have in your house have formaldehyde? Did you know what formaldehyde is?
Yeah, it's what they use to embalm people.
So you're using the stuff for the dead people right now and you're alive. When I
I
say you are, because none of my stuff in my house has it. I converted my house over 4 years ago from a lot of stuff that had a little
well,
toxins in it.
I know that the what's the name people that I use some of their cleaning stuff, and we try to be very careful about what we use for cleaning anyway because of the children. It can give breathing problems as well.
Asthma. Yeah.
And so we try to be careful about that. Yeah.
Well, and here's
But
some
some of the
example
things
ones.
you listed, how would somebody even know what those things are?
You got to read the ingredients. So hold on. I got more. I didn't even finish. I got the formaldehyde. Fragrance. Anything with fragrance in it. That's weird.
Really?
Hydrochloride. Mono. Something I can't pronounce.
Wasn't that what they used to cure COVID? It-
Hydrochloroquine. Quinine. Something like that. I'll put it in the chat.
I think
Because
that's the.
it's a
I think that
long list of things to let me put it in the chat.
I really think that's the thing
And
that they were
then
using. The
there's other ones, certain nail polishes
mm,
have these things. And so how would you know? You have to read the labels and you have to look for, different acts. So it's like you have to be prepared to shop and just going and grabbing things off the shelf and stuff like that can cause and doing it on a regular basis, we could be just consuming these things that have the chemicals in addition to all the chemicals we already have on our fruits and vegetables because of pesticides. But one of the things I do with my fruits and vegetables is I have some white vinegar and or some apple cider vinegar, and usually whatever fruits and vegetables I get, I'll rinse them and apple cider. I put them in a bowl of water with a little apple cider vinegar or white vinegar. Let them soak for a few minutes to clean off whatever was on there, just so that we can
Yeah.
and
have less
and
of whatever they sprayed on
right,
it.
and that's important for people like me because I grew up where they didn't do that. They didn't spray all those things on stuff, but we just ate fruit right from the tree. We took it off the tree and ate it. There was no washing and soaking in vinegar or whatever the heck else or whatever because we could do that. And now it's hard. Now a lot of things it's crazy. But I did see. Are you finished with what you were? So I did see where you also sent to us some additional things. I guess would be great to mention on this live. Some of the things, some of the foods that may reduce breast cancer risk, and we have the crucifers, if I could say the word right, vegetables, soy, which is kind of everybody kind of it's on the hateration train for soy, legumes as well. Onions, garlic, berries, citrus, and fatty fish. Those are all things that may reduce cancer risk. And
Hmm.
then there's some foods that are specifically your friends, like leafy greens, citrus fruits, fatty fish, herbs and spices, and they give a list. Things like oregano and thyme and mint and turmeric, ginger, garlic, fenugreek, cayenne, cinnamon, fennel, clove, sage, things like that.
Hmm.
And lots of berries and beans are good things to put in our bodies.
And those are things that we like. I mean, I like beans. When I was little, don't give me no beans.
Hmm.
But as you grow older, you think like, hey, I like beans. And you have to change your palate too when you've been used to, 20, 30 years ago, okay, hamburgers and McDonald's and stuff. I ate all that stuff. I don't eat that stuff anymore. I haven't eaten that stuff in a long time. And then when COVID came, I cooked at home. I didn't you We got a chance to realize, can you cook? Do you know how to make things taste good? The spices, those things that are healthy. I mean, I'm looking at stuff here. It says rosemary, dill, cinnamon. I knew cinnamon is supposed to lower your blood pressure. I knew
Yeah.
that. But
Hmm.
do we take advantage of the things that are, I mean, it's like it's mind-boggling because I'm guilty. I'm not saying anything that I haven't done.
You know,
I'm guilty.
it's funny because also because of where we grew up, fast food was not a big thing. And so I never really got into it here. I never really got into it, and my kids never really, that wasn't something that, like, the most times we had fast food was when we were doing a family trip, like across country or something like that. And all the kids will tell you we had to stop somewhere where there was something else for me to eat, because the kids will get McDonald's and I wanted something else. Like, the fries was okay, but I always wanted something else. So I
And you're
never.
never going on a road trip with me because you eating where we stop. You are eating where we. What do you mean you're not eating? This it. You better eat. You better go to the bathroom. You better try.
Oh my
No, no, no.
gosh!
No,
Once,
I've
I'm gonna
become
give
less
y'all the joke.
rigid
I'm
in
gonna give
my
you the
road
joke.
trip. I become less rigid in my road trip rules. I'll
Oh
stop.
my
But,
gosh!
I'm the one that likes to make time.
If you're driving, I'm gonna eat whatever you say. But but one time, my son and I were coming back from somewhere, and we stopped at, I don't remember if it was like a Burger King or something, but we went in, and I went and sat down, and my son was like, "Mom, what are you doing? You have to go order the food. They don't come and give you no food here." Like,
Oh my goodness.
like, you just bougie, because I don't go to fast food restaurants. But we went in and there was places to sit. I thought we had to sit down.
Well, and
But
you know what's interesting too to bring us back to this is if you have a family history of breast cancer, you should start. You may want to start getting mammograms and things like that
early.
sooner. You
And
can
ask your
get them
doctor. They
before.
may
You
fight
can
you. The
get them
doctor may
before
fight you
40.
for that.
Huh?
The doctor may fight you for that because they have, they tell us here's the guideline for mammogram. And this lady was under the guideline, but she knew her body. And she
Mhm.
had stage 2 or 3 breast cancer. They have these guidelines that tell you you can only get your mammogram so many times a year or whatever. But it's so good to just think about it. Tell them, hey, I have a history of breast cancer in my family. They were like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should, even though
Mhm.
you're not
Well,
not
and they have some of the things. So, like, if you have inherited genes such as the BRCA1 and the BRCA2, you should probably start screening at 25, right?
Mhm.
And
really. How do you
this
how do
is
you
why
find
you
that
need
out?
to know these things. If your mom and grandmom and your close relatives have had it, then it's time for you to really advocate for yourself and learn to advocate for yourself.
Wasn't there an
Because
actress who took her breast off because she had the genes?
I
Angelina
think so.
Jolie?
I actually had a
Angelina
friend who
Jolie.
did it. Her
Yeah,
mom died
Angelina
from breast
Jolie,
cancer,
right?
and she had both breasts removed after that. And she was
Mhm.
in her 20s, maybe 30s. And I remember this was years ago. I remember her having her breast removed because she said, "I just don't want to go through that."
Mm.
And
Wow.
so that's the hard part, right? Like you said, the doctors may fight you, but you gotta, that's why it's important to know your family history if you can. And I know there are times when you just may not be privy to this information, right? If you
Right.
were legally adopted when you were a baby and the records are still, you might not have this medical history. There are lots of reasons that we just may not have medical history, but if you do have the medical history, get out here and advocate for yourself and do it. And do the self screening, do it in the shower once a month. Get familiar with those tatas. Know when something feels off or feels different in your body. There are lots of instructions online on how to do it, but make sure that you're doing it because that family history is a big, big deal. And even when we're doing certain products and services that we do, they'll actually have a history of it. And so, excuse me, that's we're done. But I'm gonna go back to you, Carmen. Sorry.
um, the only thing I can say that this was a great conversation, and I'm glad that it is there is actually some time set aside for us to just kind of bring it to the forefront and encourage others to do the things that they can do to prevent it. And that does not only mean a mammogram, that
It was
definitely
way more
means
than just the rent. Because the mammogram is just catching it. But what could you be
right.
doing before that also reduce your risk for three, four, five other things?
Right.
Right.
Also understand that it's not just the medical risk, but the financial risk
Yeah.
that you need to mitigate. And when you are young, before anything is found, it's very affordable to be able to mitigate
Yeah.
such things.
Well, the other thing is, ladies, if you want to get a consultation with one of us to talk about your specific situation, because again, this is education, not advice, then you want to go to millionaireladiesmob.com and book an appointment. We'll be back again next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. And I don't have next week's topic in front of me to tell you. I have it on a list somewhere, but I have to look for it. We'll be back again next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5:30 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific time, and 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Took me a second, right?
I'm glad you had to do that.
I felt like I was in school trying to take a test on the different time
I would
zones.
have failed, girl. I would have failed.
But we'll be back. And so again, I'm Saran Baker, and I'm one of your Millionaire Ladies Mob members. Carmen.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We know you could be anyplace else. If you're catching us on the replay, please hit hashtag replay. Every one of us, we're trying to get this information out to as many people as possible. Take 30 seconds, please, and follow us, like us, share us. Go to YouTube at Millionaire Ladies Mob, at Millionaire Ladies Mob. Just type in Millionaire Ladies Mob. You'll find one of us. Subscribe, and then our individual channels are also linked there. Please give us a like. And share this information. It might not be for you, but you might be helping someone else. So we want to say thank you. I can be reached at carmen10k.com or at the millionaireladiesmob.com.
Go ahead, Leah.
Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight because breast cancer, we don't talk about these type of things enough. So just think about it. Like, share the video, think about some of the things we talked about, and see about getting. We didn't talk about the products that we have, but we have products to fit almost every situation and budget that you can help mitigate the cost, the fear, the mental anguish that comes with the diagnosis of breast cancer. My name is Aliyah Sherrod, and I am out of Southern California. You can reach me at Aliyah10K, and we appreciate you coming tonight.
All right, all right, all right. Don't forget TikTok. We're building a new channel. We
Yeah.
would love your support on TikTok. Tag us if you see some cool videos that we should see and maybe access, but feel free to tag us and join us. Again, this is the Millionaire Ladies Month, and we'll be back with more millionaire tips. Bye.
Yes.